This project came about because some Mormon missionaries visited my house and told me about how their book has remained unchanged for thousands of years. Now, some research has been done into changes since the 1830 print, which shows there are thousands of changes up until modern times, but that actually doesn't tell the whole story. If we look at the contents of the books over the years, we can see there are not only thousands of changes between 1830 to 2013, but there are actually thousands of changes between each edition along the way. This reveals the evolution of the text and shows its human origins. This is a quick demo of the software tool that I've put together to help me uncover all of these changes. Firstly, I have 41 scanned editions of the Book of Mormon. That is here. In each folder, I've got a folder called 01 Scans, and that has the images of all of the pages. And the first thing I do in my app is I go and I run prepare OCR pages. This will be quick because it's already done. All that does is deskews the pages to make OCR more accurate, and then puts the output files into scans deskewed. After that, the app then uses Tesseract AI driven OCR. No, sorry, wrong one. Scan pages, and then what that does is it scans them all and creates JSON data for them. These files contain, let me see, these files contain all of the information that I need basically to reconstruct the text on the page. So if I look at, I'll just choose a different random one, 1837, and I'll pull up page JSON, and then I'll drag that onto the screen. This is the information about that page in that edition. So it's got these elements, it's got the bounding rectangle and so on, so that I can actually highlight that word on the page if I want to. After that, I can sync documents to ensure that I've got all their texts aligned and that the OCR hasn't made any mistakes. The color coding means the following. So if I find a header here with no color on it, that means all of the text across all of the editions is the same. If a cell is grayed out, that means that text doesn't even exist in that edition. So the 1858 New York edition doesn't have any of this preamble in it at all. If the column header is orange, that means all of the editions have got the same word, but at least one of them has got different casing for that word. And then if any of the columns have got a red background on them, it means at least one of the editions has got a different word. So in this case, you see here, the 1829 manuscript and 1830 Palmyra uses which are instead of who are for a group of people. Now I've split the job up into sections of 100 words. First noteworthy changes here are in the credits page. Now initially in the 1830 edition, Joseph Smith is credited as the author and proprietor. By 1837 here, it's translated by Joseph Smith, so it's now been demoted from the author to merely a translator. And then if we look at the 1840 Nauvoo edition, it's not even Joseph Smith now, it's a book by someone called Moroni. So now onto the content that was supposedly preserved up in heaven. So let's see, section 533. Here we can see that some text, the name of, has been added in 1840 and into a few different editions, but wasn't in the early ones and isn't in quite a few of the others. Eventually it does make it into the current edition. Now, I don't want to count accidental changes as changes to the book, so I can give the benefit of the doubt. If I go to 47 here, we see that here, I'll just make this a little bit bigger. These people have gone to the promised land, which is actually the word land, but the printer has placed the letter N upside down. So what I can do here is I can say, I'll give the benefit of the doubt, this is a printer error, and the intended text was land. Okay, and when I turn on benefit of doubt, there we go, you see that P means printer error, and it's actually the word land. Now this next change is quite interesting. 1714, the handwritten 1829 manuscript here used to say in a valley beside a river, but beside is crossed out and it's replaced with the text by the side of. So instead of beside a river, it's by the side of a river. Now what's interesting about this is the word beside actually made it into the 1830 Palmyra edition, which suggests that the text actually, the manuscript said beside a river at the time the 1830 was based off it. And it was only after 1830 and sometime before 1837 that someone went back and retrospectively changed it from beside to by the side of, in order for it then to make its way into the 1837 edition. This is also seen in other places. So, for example, there's quite a large number of changes from 1830 to 1837, where instead of speaking about group of people as which were, it changes it to who were. Now you see again, 1829, it was originally which, and that made it into 1830. But by 1837, it became who were. The grammar improved. And if we look at the image for that, we see it's got a strike through and inserted the word who. So presumably, again, that happened after the 1830 edition. So I'm currently working on the 1829 and 1879 editions. So I'm just going to quickly disable those. So to do that, I'm just going to quickly pop out of here, and I'm going to just rename a couple of files to pretend that they don't even exist. So 1879 got disabled, and also the 1829 codery got disabled. So I'll go back into here and that will load them up without those present now. So a well-known change from 1830 to 1837 was the change of the name King Benjamin to King Messiah. Let's see where that is. There we go, Benjamin. So if I do Alt R to have a look at these, we'll see that it's Messiah all the way through, all the way back to 1830, where it actually started off as the word Benjamin. So it seems it was decided that the name should be Messiah on account that King Benjamin would actually have been dead at the time this part of the story was happening. So the name was changed in two places. If we compare the 1830 edition, we'll see Benjamin here and Benjamin later in the book. And if we look at the 2013 edition, we'll see Messiah and Messiah. And that will count as one change. Well, two changes, but this doesn't actually tell the whole story. If we look at all of the changes over time, we can actually see how this change came about. So the first one, as you can see, happened in 1837, which was during Joseph Smith's lifetime. But it seems that Smith didn't see that it also needed changing later on in the book. So there's another section, 2, 507. It's not until approximately 5 years after Joseph Smith's death. He died in, what was it, about 1844. So 5 years later, someone realised that there's another instance of Benjamin that should have been Messiah. Now, different prints, different editions go into print over the years, and even though it's changed to Messiah now, we see that in other editions it's still Benjamin. This shows that the book's not a lineage, well, it's not a sequence of prints where the latest one is always the most accurate, but it's more like evolutionary branches on a tree, where these propagated mistakes give us clues as to the lineage of the editions, and that I'll come back to and go into more detail about later. Working my way across, here it is. So here we can see that a large piece of text went missing in 1837, and it wasn't noticed until nearly 50 years later, in 1879, when it reappeared. Here it was difficult to decide whose forefathers were being talked about, and the decision flip-flopped back and forth over the years, until eventually in the current edition it was my forefathers, not thy. There are lots of observations that can be made out of the data, but I'll stop now, otherwise this will just go on forever. Instead, what I'll show you is the reports section. So this is now loading up the JSON files off the disk and processing them, and then what it's going to do is it's going to compare them to each other and show which ones are statistically most similar to others, and then from there we can render out a tree. Note that out of the 41 editions, I've completed 10. I'm working on number 11 and also the handwritten manuscript, so there's a lot more editions to go in here. So this 2013 Salt Lake City doesn't actually come directly from 1874. That story will evolve as the data gets put in. Now, ultimately, my goal is to create a website called something like, it's undecided, but the Historical Book of Mormon or something like that, where users can browse the scanned images of the editions, and then as they do, they'll see colour-coded markers on the words. Hovering over the word will tell them something like there are 7 changes, and then when they click on that word, they'll pop up some more text and they can say go to the different editions. It'll say in this edition it was thy, in this edition it was my, in the next edition it was thy again, and they can see how it's changed over the years. And just so that they can be confident that the data is correct, they'll also be able to click it and then go to that edition, see that page in that edition and have it highlight that word, so they can instantly look and say, yep, I agree, that does say thy and not my. It will be a non-judgmental website. There won't be any observations or anything. It will simply allow people to look through the data and they can judge for themselves. I could quite easily make this video twice as long simply by going in here and talking about all the different features that I've got for editing the data, splitting words apart, merging words together and so on, but I think that's enough for now. So thanks very much for watching.